Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and I welcome you to the second season of the Entheogenic podcast, where we explore and cover the indigenous origins of the psychedelic culture here in the West. And today is a very joyous occasion. I not only am I happy to be celebrating International Women's Day, happy and blessings to every beautiful one who carries the womb, one who brings life to humanity and to all things, who's the foundation of our existence. The Divine Mother is my object of devotion. And so I always like to just emphasize, especially on this day, even though it's a holiday, something that is kind of generic and mundane, but for the feminine consciousness and for the awakening of that principle to bring back balance upon this planet, which we need, is what I support. And I want to say just a blessed, happy International Women's Day to everyone. So this makes it auspicious to have this time and to share this space and to offer the first season, the first episode of the second season of the Entheogenic Roots podcast. And what makes it even just that much more joyous and auspicious is that I've got my good friends with me here today to share. We've been friends for many, many years, and we've got a lot of stories that we can unfold and unpack and share with you guys. But within my own particular heart, these particular beings here, they hold a pretty high position. I feel that they are angelic beings upon this planet. I've witnessed that and I've seen the works that they brought forth and how they serve our fellow humanity. And it's just an honor to have them here as guests and to give them the space and the platform to open up and to share their lives, their story, and what brought them into the entheogenic culture, their own separate paths that has led them to each other, how we all met, and all these things. These are just things we want to open up and share and to offer some inspiration to those who are out there within this culture who are new, who have been steeped in it for many, many years. And, everybody is going to take something away, I feel, from this interview, because we're going to go deeper. It's more of an inner view. That's what I like to say. And we're going to talk about the things that, need to be discussed and things that maybe are being overlooked within this culture in the modern day so-called Renaissance. We're going to discuss some of the origins of where these traditions come from when we talk about the entheogenic medicines, that have been partaken of for thousands of years around the entire globe. We're going to just kind of unpeel some layers and kind of get down to the heart of it and just leave you all with some inspiration. And there's ways you can engage with us, of course. After this, you can follow us. We'll leave our links, and of course, you can like, share, subscribe, and all the things to just help get this in the algorithm. But yeah, welcome once again, and I want to introduce Susana and Shimshai, Hernandez-Cook. And in fact, I'll go ahead and let them share and open up about their lives and who they are and all the good stuff.
Well, I guess I start because it's International Women's Day, so and thank you so much for your words in the beginning of the woman and this day, and especially to all of the women that are suffering in silence and everywhere in the world, the women that are in the wars and women that are pregnant and maybe have no food or water to give to their babies. And just all of the women, the older women, and the women that are hungry, or the women that have been abused or are being abused at this moment. So just in dedication to them and to all the future generations, all of the women that come after us too, and all of those that paved the way all the way to this time where we are here. So all of my ancestors and my daughter too in this International Women's Day. So my name is Xochiquetzali. Susana is my given name, my birth, then the name that my parents gave me, and my name after ceremonial name is Xochiquetzali. And it was given to me in the Mundans ceremony. and yeah, daughter of um, Olga and granddaughter of Rebecca and Carmen. So all of them from Colombia. So I am originally from Colombia, South America, and I came to this country when I was 24 years old. So that's gonna be almost 30 years ago. Um, and I really didn't understand why did I came to this country. Of course, when I came, because I was super young, but now I understand after walking so many uh, ceremonies. I realized that there is a mission that I had that I carry, bringing myself and what I represent. Even physically, all of the DNA of my ancestors, and being able to hold the ceremonies in the way that we do. A lot of ceremonies, I will say hundreds of ceremonies, and very blessed to have the honor to to be in ceremony with the grandmother ayahuasca. Is my grandmother, is the main medicine for us, and also the now after so many years the mother moon, the grandmother moon, and her medicine too. First, I was introduced to this medicine, I will say, in the century before this one.
Way back.
That was, yeah, way back.
Yeah.
And of course, through my own healing, I was living a very different life. And thank God I had this medicine that came to the rescue. And it was a life-changing time for me, a life-changing path. And since then I started to go over many ceremonies, including the Native American Church peyote ceremony. I received the water ceremony by the chiefs of the peyote Native American Church. So I've been a water woman for, I will say, like 22 years
Wow,
maybe.
it's beautiful.
And then so I made the commitment to do water ceremony in every ceremony from that moment on. So I've been doing the water ceremony for all of those years as well. And then also, like, in the Native American Church, mixed with the ayahuasca ceremonies. And then about 15 years ago, I started to do the moon dance, to go to the moon dance, and was given the ceremony, I don't know, like 7 years ago. And also the Temazcal ceremonies. I carry the Temazcal medicine too. I am a pipe carrier, and now I lead the moon dance here in California, or there in California.
Yeah.
And also the Vision Quest ceremony.
Nice.
So we carry all of those rites of initiation with the right blessings directly from the tradition. So it's not like I decided to just started to do temazcales or sweat lodges. It was just a blessing with all of the the steps.
Beautiful.
Which is, I think, is important for everyone to walk in that way, with respecting all the traditions and indigenous tribes, so you don't get into the appropriation problems and all of that stuff that is part of why they get so upset when people don't prepare themselves, because they just go into it without really knowing what they're doing, and then that's why the tribes get so upset. So when you have the right preparation and you've been walking this road in integrity and respect, then they honor what you are offering to the world, and I think that's part of all of the culture that we get to offer, and the teachings, without people. I know some people get upset because they don't get to do whatever they want, because they feel like the Great Spirit gave them the permission, or they have a vision that they needed to do these ceremonies, and then they start doing it without their proper training or the proper preparation in their own lives, embodying all the teachings. and that's when people get into problems, because also the ones that come to their ceremonies get sick, or they come outside of the ceremony in worse shape than how they came in. So it's like our responsibility is to make sure that people come out of our ceremonies in better shape with more understanding.
We've seen that happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot.
So that's kind of about me in
Beautiful.
long.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And we'll circle back and talk about unpacking, the traditions you spoke of, and put a name to them, and talk about the history and where they come from, and what they really mean, what their foundation is, and what it means to be a carrier of these traditions in this day and age. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, so for me, I can say, maybe for a lot of people that can relate to it, that have a similar background to me, growing up sort of as a white person in suburban America without this connection to culture. Like some people who maybe grew up in the South have a different association to culture and family, whether it's directly through a medicinal path or not. It's just different there than we have it here in the North. So I turned, as a young person, to the magical mushrooms, the psilocybin, just largely on my own, just going out to the woods and eating quite large amounts usually, and getting really.
What time was this?
This is probably age 16, 17, relatively young by most standards, but and so I would get a lot of insights and downloads and ideas for music. Music has always been kind of the common theme, I guess, throughout the whole journey, and in and out of ceremony and plant medicines. Music has always kind of been my medicine. For those people who have known and followed my path and career, you already know that. And it's been through my family. My family's all musicians growing up. And I was also born into this community, sort of an intentional community in Washington State, where psychedelics and spirituality were also very much fused as part of the tradition of that community too. And then it got a little culty there in the 80s. So my folks and a lot of people kind of left. They didn't maintain, a constant involvement with that. But just that fact, I always kind of come back to that. It's an interesting way to kind of have come into the world that through that community, and I find myself in this life, kind of coming back to those themes of music and community and medicine, or journeying in some way or another, whether it's through music or plant medicines or all these things. So I think one thing led to another, and an old friend of mine, I'm careful to maybe not mention too many names of people who don't want to be publicly mentioned here, right?
Understood, yeah.
There's a lot of people that kind of connect the dots. It was an old friend of mine who mentioned the word ayahuasca one time, more in the context of music. We were musicians, and it came up in conversation, and it just intrigued me that I'd never heard the word before, had no idea what it was, and I just was like, what is that? And so we got to know a little bit, and we asked him, like, what is that? Let's talk about it. And we got to actually try it on that same occasion. He kind of went and rummaged around in his closet, pulled out these bags full of vines and leaves that he had been collecting, for who knows how long. And I would say that first encounter was not a particularly profound encounter, aside from the fact that we were able to meet with the medicine, not just the medicine, the experience, or this idea of having an experience, but actually meet the plants. I always come back to that, because that became such a key part of my experience with these, is that being really hands-on with this as a really tangible medicine, not just this ethereal thing that you take, this magical substance, you don't know what it is or where it came from, and you have this journey or the experience. So it always goes back to me for those first few moments, and I kind of followed it. Spent a lot of my early 20s in the islands of Hawaii. This is all, I should say, kind of synchronistically, even though Susana and I hadn't met each other at that time. We both came into contact with these plants at a very similar time.
At the same time, right?
Sort of the late 1999 or 2000, right around the turn of the century. That was right around that.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't know each other yet. We'll get to that part, obviously. Right. So I kind of followed it. I spent a lot of time in Hawaii, recorded music in Hawaii, and found the plants, of course, thriving and being grown and practiced and cultivated and prepared in the Hawaiian Islands, sometimes with great reverence and respect, and sometimes with more just I wouldn't say ill intentions at that time, because it was a relatively early time in the evolution of this, what we're calling maybe now this psychedelic renaissance. I feel like it was a little bit more innocent then.
Yeah.
You know, people were just exploring. Not everyone knew really well what they were doing.
Yeah.
They didn't maybe understand or have the complete respect of the power of these plants. But we knew that when we put these plants together and cooked them for the right amount of time and the right ratios, this amazing thing came out of it. These spirits came alive, you know. So that led to, you know, things getting stronger and stronger just through our own exploration as a group of friends and community in the islands, to things I felt like started getting to the point where it became clear that there needed to be a guide.
Yeah.
There needed to be some guidance, some tradition, instead of just these kids kind of exploring it on their own. And really, right around that time, I had this very particular experience where it was very clear through a ceremony that that's what was needed. I got a phone call from a friend on the island of Maui, and I was living on the Big Island. And she said, "Hey, this teacher is coming directly from Peru to do a series of ceremonies here. You should come check it out." And so I did. Right away, I made the decision. It was maybe within a few weeks' time. Hopped over there, met this guy who became like a very instant connection. I didn't speak Spanish, he didn't speak English,
Yeah.
but we had this connection that you couldn't explain, whether it was through the music or the medicine or just the energies, you know. And so he immediately invited me to come to Peru.
Yeah.
And I'm still, again, pretty young at this point, 21, 22 years of age.
Everything. Yeah, you're saying. I remember that.
Yeah.
I was there in Hawaii with you.
Yeah. So I go get organized, go to Peru as soon as I can, and just kind of start diving deep with this guy in outside of Pucallpa, Peru. And really beautiful music connection, working with people, bringing groups in from outside too. I start learning Spanish, getting better. Of course, again, through the music. I'm already so deep in the music, but I start getting really into these more native indigenous chants and medicine songs and the different languages. And at some point in that period of time, he starts talking about this woman, Susana, whom he met in the San Francisco area in California. And this amazing woman, she does healings with her feathers, and she's also got this really strong connection to the medicine and the plants and the ceremonial ways. And at the same time, because he's traveling a bit, and he goes back to California, and he sees Susana, and then and he's telling her about this kid Shimshai in Hawaii who plays this really nice music, and sings to the plants and this and that. So we're hearing about each other for almost a couple years, I feel like, without having met each other yet.
Okay.
Just through this other person, this teacher of ours, who became our teacher for a number of years and worked really, really closely. And
so when was the initial meeting? When did you guys? What year was it?
We met. It's good 20 years.
It's been 20 years.
Yeah.
A little bit more than 20 years. That's when we met.
Yeah.
And I was with the teacher. He finally came from Hawaii and
to the Bay Area.
So then we met, but we were friends. We never actually my first realization that I was gonna be with Shimshai was through a vision that I have with the medicine.
Okay.
And I saw Sahara, our daughter, in the vision, and she told me that she was gonna be my daughter, and I was like, what? Like, no. And she was like, in that vision, she was really blonde, and like she was even blonder, like she was really white and blonde. And so I was like, well, and Shimshai was singing that moment, and so then I was like, wow, so who's your dad? I was like, no, I'm not gonna have another daughter because I already have my son. So I was like, no, I am, like, my hands are full and I'm a single mom. And so I was like, no. And then she said, no, Shimshai is my dad. And I was like, what?
Wow.
So then in that moment, I realized that, we were going to be together, but we were not even, like I was not even open to the possibility. And then in that night, I started to see him and I started to check like how he was looking at me. And I was like, really? He's really young, it's like we're almost 10 years difference. So like he's really young, and I have like my son and my house and like my life a little
really
different.
Imagine much at that point, right?
Yeah. So then I was really happy, actually. I was like, wow. So then I knew, but like he didn't know, but I already knew.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And what did you know?
I knew I was intrigued by this older woman, of course. Who, obviously, we had this connection through the medicine.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, I wasn't necessarily getting that far ahead, I think, at that time to think like, oh, something's definitely going to happen here. But that kind of unfolded, I think, pretty naturally. We just became friends at first, and
Yeah.
and got to know each other, which was a really powerful part of our,
Mhm.
our connection. It's just that we took the time to really get to know each other
Yeah.
and become friends before we took it past that.
That's
Mhm.
rare these days. In
Yeah,
this day and age.
yeah, we didn't jump right in and just go to bed.
Right.
We really took
Yeah.
some time, and
That's
then
nice.
it became very clear that there was something there. There was compatibility. There was a lot of
Yeah.
levels that we
Laid
that
the
we
foundation,
connect on.
and
Yeah,
all the confirmations
Yeah.
came through.
yeah,
Mhm.
That's amazing that you had that vision, and Sahara
Mhm.
came,
yeah.
and then that's like something that we can verify right here. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the daughter came through.
Yeah.
It's a lovely, lovely gift. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what year was it that you guys got married?
2007.
2007.
Tell us about the ceremony.
So we had two official ceremonies. One that yours truly, our dear brother here, presided over as our minister in the state of California, right in our backyard in Santa Cruz County, California, in the Redwoods.
That was a beautiful ceremony.
Really intimate gathering of just some of our closest friends and family, those who could make it. Unfortunately, a lot of Susana's family couldn't make it from Colombia to be there, but it was a meaningful day for us and our loved ones.
Mhm.
But the ceremony that we really look back to, that became our real wedding ceremony between us, actually happened. That was in Colombia, in the base of the Sierra Nevada mountains, with the Kogi people, with the Kogi priest Amama and his wife
Okay.
and their family too.
It was 2 weeks before that ceremony.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was in a land that we have in Colombia still. It's a Kogi land,
Right.
and then the indigenous Kogi.
Oh yeah. Who are the Kogi? Let's
Yeah,
open that up
we
and
go.
talk about the
Yeah, well, it's a very amazing tribe, and it's one of the main tribes in the Sierra Nevadas, and they are the older brothers. They are the people that take care of us from the mountains, and they have so much knowledge. They are one of the tribes that have never been in contact with the religion.
Wow.
So their spirituality is one of the few ones in the world that haven't been touched by that. So everything is about Mother Earth, the way they walk, the way they eat, even their sexual energy. They only make love outside in nature. It's just they take care of their waters. The woman is like this amazing being to them, super respectful. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's important to point out for those people who don't know, really at all about these people. I know many people have heard about them now, but these groups and these tribes actually escaped the conquest originally.
Yeah.
They managed to escape the Spanish conquest completely, and they fled, from down lower up into the hills. And they still live to this day, many of them, in their traditional villages, their traditional way of life, 100%.
Are they a nomadic tribe?
They're beginning to mingle. No, they have villages. They set up villages. They farm. They cultivate. They have livestock, and but they've just had to go further up, and they kind of watch from up on top of the hill. They watch down below, and they can see the madness of what you might call Babylon these days, or just modern civilization, and they can sense it. They can feel it, even though they don't watch the news or anything. They're beginning, maybe not beginning to, but they have for some time started to mingle a little bit. Some of them will come down and kind of get involved and find out different opportunities and things, the ways of the world. Some of them, of course, come down from the mountain and get lost into alcohol and modern things too, like anyone is susceptible of, especially of indigenous. But many of them are up there still, just watching and holding it down for us.
And
There's a
their main
documentary,
medicine, their main medicine is coca. It's
Yeah,
the
completely.
coca.
Yeah.
So it's like they have all of their traditional medicine is based around coca and the poporo and praying with the poporo, and then the women are making mochilas, which is like these beautiful bags, and they are making their prayers and just weaving all of their prayers and stories around those bags. So they have amazing uh, like teachings, and it's the coca that gives them all of those teachings. And unfortunately, because of all the civilization and everything, their lands are getting, you know,
Yeah, that's
like
great.
yeah, yeah. So they are just trying to keep all of their religion
yeah.
intact and also take care of us because they are always reading through the signs of nature what's going on down there, so they know what's going on. They just start to see the changes in the air, or they ask questions and they receive answers. They are always in contact with the spirits of nature, and that's how they read what's going on in the world.
Amazing.
So
And there's several groups that still exist. I think there's 4 main tribes. The Kogi and the Arhuaco are sort of the most well-known. They're descendants of a people called the Tairona, which was an ancient civilization, sort of like the Inca, that you just don't hear about as much. But there's lost cities, a lost city up there that's kind of like a Machu Picchu, but in the mountains of coastal Colombia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've even heard it being called the Himalayas of the West.
Sure.
Yeah, the Sierra Nevadas.
So we got introduced into a lot of the rituals, and even through our marriage, we are part of that tribe because we got married with them. So then we became part of the tribe, and they take care of us from the mountains so we can do our work. And when we go, yeah, and when we go to Colombia, they do the cleansings. I am in constant communication with Imamo. If I have a problem, I call him, and then he starts doing all of his rituals from wherever he is, and then just kind of cleansing us and protecting us from there.
Beautiful.
And you can see they always tie these little simple bracelet with a little colored bead.
So all of these are from,
or they send it to us. Yeah.
Nice.
And our kids have them too.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Sort of like a spiritual assurance, they call it.
That's lovely.
Insurance policy.
Yeah, for our guest, I'll put in a link of this documentary that's on the Kogis, and I think it's called A Message to Little Brother.
Yeah.
Do you remember that
one? The original one was From the Heart of the World.
Yeah.
Elder Brothers
Heart of the World,
Warning
exactly.
or something.
Yeah, I think it was made in the early 90s.
Yeah, the BBC actually
Yeah,
produced
look it up and I'll leave a link for everybody to check.
And they made a few follow-up.
Right. I've seen some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing that you guys have that connection, that you're carrying that. We've been blessed up within that lineage. And speaking of lineages, can we talk about the lineages that you guys are carrying and what you've been initiated into, and what it means for you, and just to break it down, like, cause my mission here with this podcast and just what I do is to help bring the awareness back to the original, to the indigenous, to the origins of where this all came from, and what it means in this modern day. We see that a lot of things have been, freestyled and offshooted, and, so-called New Age movement has taken things and appropriated and packaged it and made it into a business and all these different things. And, that leaves a big gap in people's, education as to, like, where these roots, come from, where they are. What is the real foundation? What are the lineages? Or the teachers, who have passed this along over the last thousands of years and till this day. So yeah, feel free to share that.
Well, we have different teachers, but we haven't received necessarily from all of them the ceremonies. Like we have the teachers like from the jungle. Jose Campos is our main teacher, and that's the person that introduced us to each other.
What tradition? What tradition is Jose?
He's Chibigo. Chibigo. And then that's how we started. He pretty much started to push us through to do all of this work. He was preparing us for years. I worked with him for about 3 years, with him next to him in the ceremonies, and he was right there teaching me to do my work, the work that I do. He basically showed me my essence, and then I discovered my essence, and that's how I started to work with the medicine. And then obviously the main teacher for me is the ayahuasca, because she is the one that teaches me everything, how to make my medicines, how to work with people. I don't really follow anyone's whatever they do with their feathers or anything. I just go in with the medicine, and she tells me exactly how I need to move in the room, if someone is in the bathroom, if someone is sick, or if someone is gonna get sick. I just follow all of her
real channel.
Yeah, no, it's just not even me. It's like she just takes over. Even my voice, how I sing, everything is just whatever she takes over, and that's what I do. That's basically it. But then Jose is the one that allowed me to go into that place and taught me how to do my work and to gave me the strength to go and do it, because it's very difficult when you are, especially with medicine. It's just,
Yeah.
and especially his medicine is very, very strong, so it's not like you can just,
Yeah.
you know, it was just really challenging. And then in the Native American church, I have our teacher is basically my dad, uncle Fred Vasquez. He's
Tio
just
Fred.
Tio Fred,
Yeah.
who's been like a dad for me in this country, and he's really close to my family too. And he is just a dad to me. Like he, you know, he calls me. I tell him everything too, and then he yells at me sometimes. Not yelling, but like, you know, he
Right.
just tells me the things how they are, just like a dad. You know, no,
Stern, yeah.
yeah, no filters, just plain. So he is the one that brought me into the Native American church, and actually the one that gave me the courage to start singing, because I had like a big blockage within myself to sing. So he just sat with me with the drum and made me sing, and I was just terrified. And in the ceremonies, the same thing, you know. So he's a super important part of my life. And then I will say my last teacher was Abuela Malinali. I was praying for a woman to, because I had like all of these men in my life, but I didn't have a woman, and I was just looking for a woman that I could learn, and she came. And I went to the moon dance with Tio Fred. He brought us to the moon dance, and my first moon dance was with him. And then from that point on, I met Abuela Malinali, and she became like a mom to me, like a second mom. And then we walked through the years. She was giving me all of these ceremonies. I really didn't want to take the moon dance because I thought it was just it's a huge ceremony, and I didn't even think I was gonna be able to do all of those steps and so much work. But then, you know, she was like just super insistent in giving me that. She also gave me the Tonalama medicine, which is the count of time, which is a very intricate system. And she taught it to me. She gave me all of the teachings through the years.
Is it a different calendar?
It is based on the Aztec calendar in the sunstone.
Yeah.
And then it's like the count of the time. It's like indigenous astrology.
13 months? Is it 13-month cycle?
No, it's a very different. It's 20 months.
You might have to have a separate podcast for that topic.
Yeah. It is 20 months. It is 20 months. Well, it's 18 months of 20 days, and then the hours are different.
Wow.
Yeah, it is just very, very
might have to
difficult.
Do that for a segue and go deeper through that. That's knowledge.
I'm starting a class too. So
beautiful.
So I am teaching people how to count, because it's not a linear calendar like the Gregorian. It's a calendar in a spiral.
Earth-based.
So it's earth-based with So it's like how people in the past, based on that calendar, how they used to do their ceremonies, and every month have different offerings to the spirits, and then you can check like what's a good day for like water ceremonies, or to, you know, pray for food or water, because in the ancient times there was no water like we have it now, or food like we have it now, so they had to pray for it and make offerings. So so I had that calendar, and she taught me that count of time, and that's how I get to do the naming ceremony for the people, because I do all of the astrologic chart. And then I get to know what they came to do in this world according to the ancestors, and their mission and all of that, and then I can give them their name. And for the moon dance, I have to know that count of time, because I have to give women and men their name, their spiritual name. So it's a big responsibility. So I got that ceremony. She gave me the temazcal. I got the pipe from Mexico, and we danced in the pyramids of Teotihuacan. We used to dance there. So it's like they say it's where the gods come to life.
Yeah.
That's the lands where the gods come and are born actually. Um, so yeah, I did all of those ceremonies, and then um, finally she convinced me to do the moon dance, because I had like, yeah, we had everything pretty set up, like a good, also good companionship. Shimshai was doing also the fire in those ceremonies, and then all of the sudden she got cancer and she passed away in
So quick.
very quick.
So quick.
When was this?
So that was in 2000, and it was the
2020.
same 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the same at the same time that we got that fire, that we lost the house. So all of that year was like COVID.
Big
We
shifts.
couldn't do ceremonies anymore. Then we had the fire. Then she died. It was all in 1 year, but I had to continue. Like, I was also trying to see, like, well, maybe she died, so it's like I don't have to do ceremonies, because it's like she cannot be with me here to do the ceremonies. And then when I told her, like, I'm not sure if I am supposed to do ceremonies, that we have COVID, we have all of these things happening, she was like, okay, so does that mean that if I die, you're gonna stop doing the ceremonies? It's like you made a commitment with the spirits, with tobacco, in front of all the community, in front of the pyramids. You had to do ceremonies.
Yeah.
So, like, that's how I have to, I have to do the ceremonies until I die. This is the moon dance's commitment that you do until you die.
Amazing. Wow.
So that those are my.
Well, much respects to her and to Don Jose, the holders of the lineages, teachers. Yeah.
If I could just clarify a point for anyone who's taking really meticulous notes, Don Jose is actually not Shipibo himself of blood, but his tradition is Shipibo.
Yeah.
So that's essentially,
Yeah, a little technicality.
Little technicality, exactly. But I think the thing that was coming to mind through a lot of this is, and it's something I can reflect on being, as a young person, again in my early 20s, just so inspired by the power of these plants and these medicines. And sometimes you see it and you're like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And then you come to realize the immense responsibility that comes along with this. So it's kind of like you come to see it over time and with a little maturity, that ultimately I even got to a place where, like, I don't want to do that. I started seeing like how grave and how serious this path is and this work. So it's not necessarily something that you choose, and it's something that you really have to. For us, it always came back to the people, the elders in our lives, that kept reminding us, like, you didn't choose this, but we're here to remind you that there's something going on here. You need to follow through with this. And that to me is really, really an important point, because there's such an eagerness these days. Again, this is really different than it was when we first came across these plants 25 years ago, when there was a little bit more of an innocence, as I mentioned before. Now there's a little bit more. We kind of know a lot more than we did then, and it's more public knowledge. It's in movies, it's in TV shows, it's on talk shows and comedy, big screen, So there's an awareness about this. So there's a even more responsibility to me that comes along with preserving that. So what I was going to say, is it's kind of like a lot of any of these seats of power. I think politics comes to mind too. It's sort of like you look at the people that really want that seat of power are probably not the ones that should have it.
True.
The ones that really have such a strong desire to hold that seat, usually
they should pause.
It's not for the right reasons, right? And it's the ones that maybe are more reluctant to take it, the ones that maybe even don't want anything to do with that seat of power, that are actually the ones that are, maybe more fit to serve, because you can actually get to the essence of why you're really even holding that seat in the first place. It's not about power, it's not about money. There might be money or different gains that come along with it, because we live in a modern world. We depend on an economy, and that's just a reality. You kind of have to make peace with that one way or another, and we've done that in our own way too, and we can expand more about that. But the other point that I wanted to make before I switch too much is because Susana was mentioning our Tio Fred, down in Santa Cruz, the Peyote Road man, sun dancer,
Shout out to Tio Fred.
really inspiring elder, in his 80s and still just going strong and holding it down. He was the one who actually came to us after about 10 years of ourselves just doing our own personal work with that grandmother medicine,
Yeah.
but being really reluctant to serve it on her
Okay.
own. You know,
Yeah.
again, I kind of went through my own process where I wanted kind of to get away from it because
Yeah.
I saw so much darkness and manipulation and these other things that were coming along with it. You know,
Yeah.
by so many people, mainly men, but taking advantage again of that seat of power.
Sure.
But it was that that elder, Uncle Fred, who came to us at one point, and he asked us specifically to run a ceremony for his community. Yeah, he did it really in the old way. You know,
beautiful.
Asked us to run a prayer meeting using that medicine. You know, for his community, and a lot of them were not as familiar with that medicine because they come from a more of a peyote Native American church type background. So that's, again, those are those kind of signs that we took, like, okay, you know, I'm not deciding to do this, but this elder is coming and asking us to do this. I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah, with all of our elders, it's been like that. Like, you know, even for me, like singing, Tio Fred was the one, like, he made me. I was like, no, and he kept talking to me and like, just do it. And the same with Jose. He was like, okay, now you have to go to the next step, which is taking the medicine by yourself. And I was terrified because I was like, oh my gosh, this medicine is serious. And if I'm going to take it by myself, I can totally die, you know, by myself. Because I don't know how it can go for me, you know. And then Abuela Malinali, same thing. So we were talking about with Shimshai like these last few days. We were like, actually, you know, we never wanted to do this, you know. We were like, no. And they are like, yes. And there are so many people that are like, oh, I want to grab all of this and I'm gonna do it. No permission, like just full on without really preparation. And I'm like, wow, that's like, I don't know why you want to do that, because it's such a serious responsibility with the people, with your own life.
Yeah.
In all of the aspects, you know, of your life.
Very profound. Yeah. With that being said, let's move into the space of like sharing how medicine has impacted you on a personal level and within your own life. If you want to, you know, elaborate and expand on that.
I'll jump in because it might be, I think Susana's story might be a little bit more,
okay,
where it was really a game changer for her.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I was, you know, like I said, I was raised in an intentional community. My parents were kind of hippies. We had sort of a spiritual mindset, even if it wasn't like a disciplined tradition or something. There was a spiritual mindset. So I grew up as a person who was pretty centered, I think, and grounded in my own spirituality, my own place through my music. So if anything, the medicine really just helped to expand on that. My story is not one of those where it completely flipped my story and woke me up from a slumber or something.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I was already on a path of being pretty awake, and it just kind of you know, heightened that awakeness and that awareness and the empathy and the awareness of everything else around me just that much more. So just that little snippet to start, you know, and then from there it's been years and years of different changes and growths, and sometimes stronger, sometimes more subtle.
Yeah, but you used to smoke a little weed.
Yeah.
And?
Yeah, well.
You used to smoke a lot of weed?
I did. You know, some people still think, because they see this hair on my head, like, this guy's got a... Yeah, I was like Rasta style, you know, it's when Yochanan and I met, we met more through the reggae scene, music festival vibes, and it's still obviously a part of our reality, but that was something that kind of went along with that world, you know, quite a bit. But it was actually through the getting serious with the medicine, with ayahuasca, that showed me that not necessarily that the ganja was bad or anything, but that she required a different space. And it was very clear in the message that to really go deep with this medicine, with this grandmother, abuelita, I was going to have to let that one go. And that's what I did. And it was actually kind of really easy. It wasn't something that I struggled with. I decided, you know, after one ceremony, like, okay, that's it. I'm going to put that one down, and I'm going to really embrace this other medicine too. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And for me, it was, well, I have actually my grandparents. I have a grandmother that is a curandera, a healer. She used to heal with plants and talk to spirits and indigenous, but also like with all of that idea of the indigenous people were like the lowest class of the society. So in my family they don't talk about in the indigenous peoples in my family because it's kind of embarrassing. They want to just always embrace the European culture, you know.
Right.
So and then my dad, from my dad's side, their dad, his dad was a medium, so he used to do all of this, write all of these books, and do all of these secret meetings with people to talk about, you know, spirits. So he will deliver the messages from the spirit.
Okay.
So that grandfather, he knew I was gonna do this work. So since I was little, he kept coming to my house and tell my mom I was gonna be doing this work. And my mom was a little worried because it's not like being a dentist or an engineer, you know,
Yeah.
but like being kind of like a witch, you know.
Right.
So they were like, oh, that's not gonna be a good job, but you know, whatever. So then
The life of a bruja.
yeah, so I went to school. I went to a lot of school. I went to university. I studied about like 8 years of university. So I studied psychology. I didn't like it, so then I switched to business administration. I also did some design, and so yeah.
Yeah.
And then I came to this country after all of that stuff, and I went to live with an American man, and he was a very important teacher in my life to learn how to love myself and respect myself.
Mhm.
So I had a son with him, and yeah, that's Adrian, my beautiful medicine man
Shout out to
son.
Adrian,
That he's also starting to embrace all of these ways, which makes me super happy. And then from that point on, I was in a very deep depression because I was really not doing what I wanted to do. You know, like I was just doing what the society wanted me to do, but not
Yeah.
really what I came here to do.
Right.
Since I was in my school, I used to do like mediumship too. I used to do like calling spirits, do Ouija boards, calling people, tell them like all their stuff, and they were like, wow, like how does this woman know all of this?
Yeah.
But it was all hidden because I was in a Catholic school. So of course, the whole Catholic school, I was, it was called matricula condicional, which is like I was like they were gonna kick me out every year for doing like weird stuff.
Mm.
And the nuns were like, no, she's crazy, and you know, so and it's not like Catholic, and she's just like breaking all the rules and all of that stuff. So anyway, from that point, yeah, so from that point on, always knew I had something in me. And then thank God to the medicine and that depression that I had medicine in Colombia, of course, and I died. I was sexually abused when I was a little girl too, which I never got to really acknowledge. Like I never remember because I kind of disassociated from my body.
Yeah.
So I never
Suppressed it.
really like saw it, and then I realized all of the things that I was doing to keep that, you know, hidden and all of that stuff. So I started to, you know, work on myself, and yeah, the medicine just helped me see again who I was. So then I got divorced, and then around that same time I met Theofred, and then he started to take me into those ceremonies, which were very healing. I did the Vision Quest too in Indian Canyon Reservation, and I started to come to myself. And then he introduced me actually to Jose Campos.
Okay.
So that was like a chain of,
Look at
and
that.
then
Yeah.
Theofred also brought me to Abuela Malinali, to the Mundans. So he's been such an incredible
Yeah.
person.
That's a beautiful story of like fulfillment of destiny. You know, being pulled and magnetized to the path you're supposed to be on to fulfill that inner calling. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, for sure.
And instead of staying in the victim
Yeah.
role, like, oh, I was abused, now I'm gonna stay suffering,
Yeah.
or I am with an abusive man, so I'm gonna stay like
Yeah.
being a victim. It's just how do you transform and become reliable and like just transform all of this lessons of pain and suffering into empowerment.
Yeah.
And I talk about these things because if I wasn't abused when I was a child, I probably wouldn't be doing the moon dance, which is a dance around a womb. And that's how important the womb is for all of the women that come to dance. It's just to bring all of that purification of the waters and empowerment of our inner beings,
Yes.
or our most important altar, that is our womb.
Mhm.
So like if I didn't experience all of the things that I experienced when I was younger, then I wouldn't be saying to the woman how important it is for all of us to come back into that center of power and intuition.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's so crucial. We need that in this day and age, especially now. Yeah, if you'd like to talk more about the moon dance tradition and what you offer, what are some of the main tenets, the foundation of it, and how it shows up today, and what you're doing in that work for humanity.
So there was this group of grandmothers that used to be sun dancers, and they wanted to bring the ceremony of the woman that was also in the codices in the ancient manuscripts of Mexico. So all of those codices show the ceremony of the moon dance, which is around a womb, and they show the woman dancing at night with the gods of the directions and all of that. So all of that was in the codices, and they knew the ceremony was happening. They knew it was an ancient ceremony, but got lost with the colonization because of course they thought it was witchcraft, or everything that was indigenous and connecting with the earth and talking with the spirits was witchcraft, which was completely prohibited. So they started to do the Sundance, and that was many, many years ago. And they felt that they needed to do that offering of sleep at night and connect with the moon and their waters, connecting the waters to the moon. So they got together and they started to do this ceremony, and they put the drum, they brought all of the medicine songs, indigenous songs. Many of those songs are in Nahuatl and in Spanish mainly. And now we are sometimes bringing some of the English version of those songs and also some of the Native American songs with permission of the tribes from here from the north. But the ceremony of the moon dance is basically a ceremony from the south, and it's for the woman, and it was born many years ago, and it's passed from woman to woman. So the blessing is given by a chief of that ceremony to another woman to keep doing that ceremony. It's until the day you die when you receive that ceremony. You are supposed to do that ceremony every year until you die, and all of the women that dance inside that circle are women, so they have to have a womb. And then we have 8 sweat lodges in that ceremony, so it's 4 nights, 8 sweat lodges. So we dance all night. Before we go into the dance, we go into the temazcal, and then we close again with another temazcal. During the day, you can rest a little bit, maybe 2 hours. Some people don't rest at all because it's so much energy with the moon all night that you cannot sleep really. There is a lot of healing, a lot of women start bleeding too, and there is a lot of things that come up for women. There is a lot of healing, and then the men are tending the fire. So it's not just women, men are not, no. We embrace the men. It's part of the healing also of the family, and for all of us women to love our men because we need them. And The men tend the fire all night for us, and they take care of us during the whole 4 nights.
Okay.
So the offering is 4 nights, and we usually commit to do it 4 years.
Okay.
We receive a pipe at the end of the four years, and it's an obsidian pipe. And we are supposed to pray with that pipe every full moon.
Wow.
From the rest of our lives. We also are supposed to offer our blood for the women that are still bleeding. They offer their blood every time they get their moon, and it's just to keep those blessings and to keep praying for the humanity, and also to give thanks for all of the blessings that we receive during that cycle. And then there are drummers that make other commitments. They make a 4-year commitment if they want to be in the drum. The saumadoras, or the ones that are with the copal all night cleansing people, is 4 years commitment too. The ones that carry the conch, so it's the air element.
4 years too?
4 years too. And the line leaders that lead the lines, because every line, all the circle has 4 lines, and one each.
Okay.
Yeah, one each direction. So the ones that lead those lines, because we do different mandalas all night according to the song, the songs that are going on, and according to whatever is going on with the moon at that moment.
The dance pattern and the
Yeah,
mandalas?
so I do the dance patterns, and they follow me. And basically it's because the dance leader, everyone follows the steps from the dance leader, so we follow the person in front of us.
Amazing.
So it's like you are just doing all of these offerings of the mandalas, and it's an offering to the spirits of all the directions, because we also make some prayer ties, and we sustain those prayer ties by dancing 4 nights, and not quitting in the middle of it.
Okay.
We are just supposed to complete those 4 nights, and then we close it with a temazcal, and then your life completely changes.
Beautiful. For those women, do they have a particular title? Or they call it priestess of the moon dance, or they call it
No.
They just give it a particular name at the end of the 4
Well,
years.
they call me an abuela, because I have the moon dance now, and when I received that ceremony, I became an abuela, and Shimshai became an abuelo. But basically, I think that once you also turn 52, which I did, and you have your ceremony of the 52 years, when it's like all of the wheels of the calendar come back into the day that you were born, then you have the grandmother ceremony. So I am a grandmother, even though I don't feel like a grandmother. I just feel like I just need so much more experience in my life to become a grandmother. But like, they call me abuela, and now I'm learning to accept it. But like, no, we have the saumadoras, and the chief of the saumadoras, I am the chief of the dance, or the chief of the drum, and then the chief of the caracolas. It's just, they are chiefs, and then Shimshai is the chief of the fire.
Beautiful. So what is the importance, or what is the gift that a person who's empowered in this way, what do they bring to the world from going through these rites and these ceremonies?
Well, I think it's basically that you put all of your prayers and your life into these prayers. Whatever you are putting into those prayers is gonna come true. So it's not necessarily that you are seeking a position or anything like that. It's more like your life starts to transform, and once you believe in these ways so deeply, because your life transforms so much, and you know how these prayers start to unfold in your own life, then you have that faith that this is gonna work. So then you start to commit to do more things, because at some point you start to serve instead of taking. You start to help women to receive, and that's how I decided to do this ceremony, because I wanted many women to start to learn how to hold all of this, like really the songs, how to really cleanse people, how to really be respectful and have discipline. And believe into these prayers, believe in the power of the fire, believe in the power of each of the songs, and the power of making offerings, like not being able to sleep for 4 nights, and how all of those prayers are being listened because you are giving a little bit of respect to the elements. So they respond to you, and as they respond to you, they give you more responsibilities, and that's how you start going up in the ladder of the mundans, I guess. Like you start getting more powerful because people see you with your power, because you are just receiving all of this power within yourself. And also you start trusting yourself and your intuition, and being impeccable in the way you walk, in the way you raise your children, in the way you are with your partner. It's just being very clean in your life, and that's how people start to see your life and realize that those things work. So
it's a lovely gift to the world, definitely.
I would add to the gift that it is to learn about discipline and sort of patience, perseverance, because again, just going back to the theme of eagerness around the medicine, you drink. So many people have medicine one time and just immediately, I'm going to be a shaman, I'm going to become a shaman now, right. I'm going to learn some songs. Well, with this path, it really requires you, even more so because the structure is set up that way, where you really have to commit not only to 4 nights of all night long and the sweat lodges and all this, but then you've got to come back for 4 years, and then maybe even longer if you choose to take on another role, or your goal is to kind of attain some other gifts that might come from the ceremony, such as maybe running the temazcal, the sweat lodge, or different things that can come from it. So it requires that returning year after year, night after night, and having the patience and the perseverance to maybe you see a vision, like maybe someday I'll be in this spot, but it's not going to be tomorrow, it's not going to be next year. It might be 10 years down the road. And having that trust and knowing that it's okay to take the time. And that's something I think that we lack so much in today's society. We want everything so instantly. We want to take a 6-month course online and be certified in whatever it is, and we've given up on the importance of just the time, the real life living and walking that is required by so many of these ceremonies, that there's no other way to do it other than live it and walk it. And that requires time. Right. Time of life, and it can be decades sometimes.
It becomes a real life commitment, and it polishes you up, and it takes time to create a diamond. And that example of all the pressure and the things that take place in the deep caverns of the earth, it just doesn't happen overnight. From coal, from a black piece of matter to become that beautiful, shining, indestructible diamond. That's the way I look at it as well. It's like these traditions teach us that discipline, that way to live ethically sound in our lives, and to look at everything honestly with that self-reflection and self-accountability, so that we can return to the world with something that is authentic and true, that has a real base that can uphold other people in their lives and inspire them to do the real healing.
That, and I will just one final note on that, is the attention to detail. The importance of these little steps that sometimes can be so easy to overlook. But then you realize everything in a ceremony like this happens for a reason, and there's a purpose. And if you don't understand it, you trust, the tradition or the way it was passed on, and you follow those steps. And we see it when things are overlooked or things are missed. Even by us, sometimes we get too ahead of ourselves, even in operating the ceremony. We look back and say, we missed this step, and then the night got weird, or whatever it might be. The whole energy kind of maybe shifted. Because of one little small step that was out of place. And those are also the lessons sometimes that we all have to learn too, of course.
True. So the importance of, for a temazcal is like people see a temazcal and then they want to run it because they think it's just, bringing hot rocks and like just going and sweating and, but like for us is no, you have to do 7 years of the moon dance and 4 years of the vision quest to be able to really understand and get strong, so you can hold the energetic space for the healing that happens in a temazcal, and also like you can have the discipline to hold the space for all of these people. That sometimes it's like 50-60 people inside the temazcal, and you have to hold the energy, because if you are like on the floor, then like what's going to happen with all of the other people? So it's like 4 years of the vision quest is like super hard ceremony too, and we believe that if you cannot hold your vision quest, then don't even bother going into doing a temazcal. So it's also for us important that we do all of this in a disciplined way, very respectful way. We don't use any other medicines. Nobody that comes into the camp can be under the influence of anything, because it's just we are so sensitive and open that we want to give the space to the moon and to all of the powers of the elements. We get to feel them and we get to see their power. So there is no usage of any other medicines. Of course, just the tobacco to pray with our pipes, and the temazcal. That's how we also wash ourselves, because there is no usage of water. We don't take showers. You know, it's just it's just a lot of sacrifices.
Really austere. Yeah.
You know, like you are in the heat all day, and you are in a tent, and women are just really under the heat, and at night sometimes it's under the super cold weather, you know, and it's just those offerings, so we can also learn how to stand up when things get difficult, and if we cannot stand up in that ceremony, how can we stand up when life gets hard? You know, so that makes us very strong women. You know?
And still in these ceremonies, even without having to take any medicine, I mean, people are like purging, getting well, having full-on visions and experiences.
Wow.
No medicine, just through the power of the energy of the sweat and the prayers and the dance and the
Eastern tradition would call it tapas. You know, going through severe austerity to purify and to cleanse and to, you know, reach that state of ultimate balance and clarity, so you can be a living channel and an intuitive, you know, receptor of the messages of the cosmic forces. Yeah, so we are witnessing this day and age, like we mentioned a few times, just about the, you know, Renaissance, and how there are a lot of new, you know, that there's a new wave of the psychedelic revolution taking place. You know, legislations are opening up in different states, or in Oregon where some legalities, they've bounced back and forth, and we hear about Colorado opening things up and leading the way for practitioners and facilitators and these type of things, you know, the psychedelic space. What is your perspective on you know, the way things are unfolding and being just opened up like this? Do we think we need to pump the brakes a little bit and go back to more traditional type of, you know, approaches, or, you know, do the clinical colonizers need to take counsel with elders that are in the traditions and receive certain guidelines?
It's a complicated topic. I think there's two parts of it, you know, because especially when you have these sacred medicines, there's the one part that's just the components of the plants that can be reduced to chemistry, and that's one effective part of it. But to me, that's missing a whole massive part of it that comes along with these ceremonies. In most cases, there are specific songs, there are prayers, there are invocations, just even the way that the altar is set, the way that just the energy of the people that are sitting behind the altar and carrying that space. So you're going to have a really different, if you sit and have a cup of medicine and get, you know, go in a sort of a sterile room, might be a clean environment, might be a nice environment, but it's going to be a really different experience, I think, than being surrounded by that ceremonial element where we have the prayers. And the tobacco for us is always really, really important, something that I'm sure, you know, has been talked about a lot on these type of podcasts. You know, that traditional use of tobacco is so different than the addictive habit forming smoking. We're not smoking, you know, but the tobacco for us always accompanies the ceremony, and we don't inhale it. You know, it's there to pray and to cleanse and to heal and to connect. So that's just one example, and that's an element that I will always kind of bring into the ceremony. And I will feel very strange if we had a ceremony that where I wasn't allowed to offer the tobacco or to blow the smoke, to bless the medicine, bless the elements and the people. So, you know, it's a mixed bag. I'm also all for people getting the help that they need if they need it. And if these plants and these components and these medicines can be helpful, and I understand that not everyone, our mothers or grandparents or whoever it is, they're not all going to come sit in a traditional ceremony. It might be too much for them, right? So if there is a way that we can get this medicine to help them, you know, I think there's a fine line between making that available. As far as legalities, I think it's really tricky, because I think there is a certain amount of protection that does come from from not openly legalizing all these medicines, because then they're available, anyone can access them, and all these topics that we've kind of discussed up until now become even more heightened. Abuse and misuse and neglect and so many different things that can come up as part of that, just lack of respect to the traditions and forgetting where they come from,
Right.
if they're made just readily available. So I think there is a benefit from having them protected in some sense legally. Of course, we can see maybe a different path where it's easier for people that can show, like ourselves, that we have a verified path and a lineage and teachers that can back us up.
Yeah.
People that are, anytime we're in ceremony, there are people out there that have us in mind, from a traditional standpoint. I think that goes a long way. We really put a lot of trust in the ancestors and the power of the lineage and the support of the people that come before us. So it would be nice to see some different paths opening up, and maybe that's possible. But it's a tricky one. I know there was a subject going around for a while where there was some people sort of selling memberships into the Native American church and saying that, well, by buying this Native American church membership, you're protected from using all these medicines. And that's simply not true. I mean, you're dealing with like really specific legalities that not only deal with Native people, but like Supreme Court rulings that are very specific to the use of medicines and how and to whom. So there's no like umbrella, like you can buy a certificate that's going to just protect you. Unfortunately, there haven't been too many cases. There have been a few busts and people getting in trouble here and there, but there haven't been a mass amount of problems legally with it, so I don't know what the future has for that, but it would be nice to see a pathway that kind of honors a middle ground for those people who do practice in a good way. But it's hard to, because where do you draw the line? Who's the one that at the end of the day who's going to decide, well, you're doing this the right way and you're doing it the wrong way? Because it's not that black and white either. Right? It's never that simple. But it's a complicated.
I don't even know how cool we have a ceremony like Shimshai said, like in a sterile room, without prayers and like just it's like I just feel like it would be very scary if I was with the medicine, like especially with all of the things that she shows you. It's like if you are in an environment like that, I don't even know, like I think it will be part of her teachings will be like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you supporting this kind of stuff? Like you are supposed to be in nature and you are supposed to be guided by someone that knows how to give this medicine, not like this person that has no idea, has never been in the jungle. They don't really know the spirit of this plant. This is the spiritual world. This is not, it's a spiritual world. This is not just like a, new age thing. This is old age. And the plants are so powerful that they also will give you whatever you put into your intentions. It's like if you are sitting in a room like that, you are gonna take some pills and then you're just gonna sit and see what she shows you. She probably is gonna show you exactly to that point. She's not gonna give you the depth of the experiences as if you were in the Amazon jungle with all of the animals and seeing really her full power. So I wouldn't even go, to any ceremony like that.
Or just the vibrational difference between putting on like a Spotify medicine music playlist, which a lot of people are doing.
I heard about that.
Versus the real vibration of sitting there and singing to the plants. I mean, you're missing the point. In my perspective, you're completely missing the point if you're doing it that way. But not to say that can't work, and there might be a setting when that might be necessary. But when you're sitting there, communicate, because you're singing the Icaros. That's the song where you're invoking the spirit, the essence of the plant. You're singing to her. She's feeding back to you. That can only happen in real time, live at the altar. You can't. That's why we don't really record some of our really deeper altar music. A lot of that stays at the altar in the dark. For that reason.
Thanks for that.
Some people get to know us from a Spotify list that someone played while they were with the medicine, and I'm like, some really big resorts that are charging $8,000 for a retreat with the medicine. And they put our music in a Spotify list, and I'm like, they should at least call us, if they're charging $8,000, we can come here and like sing the songs live, and they don't have to pay us all of that, of course, but per person is like, they're making a lot of money, and they cannot even hire decent healers and musicians and people that have worked with the medicine. So it's just all of that commercialization of the medicine that is just like, it's kind of weird, but some people don't know because they are just walking into this path, and that's what they get offered, and they pay for it because they think if they pay $8,000 is because it's good, and it's not necessarily that. I also know a lot of women that go into the jungle, that they've been working with me, then they go to the jungle because they were offered this retreat, and then they go to this faraway place. They go with the shaman does this womb healing on them, which is like he basically rapes them every night in ceremony, and then they come back convinced that the shaman did womb healing on them, and then they tell me all of these stories, and I'm like, I cannot believe you are so naive. Like, how can you let some shaman, which is not like not necessarily the people that are in the jungle are also shamans, like they are sometimes just kids that, or like men that see that it's easy money, and they look indigenous, so then they just say, yeah, I do ceremonies, and then they start raping all of these women that come super, like, very naive, and then they end up having real issues coming back into this country.
How much more of that we are seeing now, and this is going to segue into the topic of decolonization, but how much of that is influenced by neocolonialism in this day and age, like being influenced by the Spanish and the Catholic, the conquistadors, and what they did, and maybe planted some of those bad seeds, and then they are born with those, maybe other genetic influences. I don't know, but I think it's important to, to discuss. Of course, as you showing up as a white male in this day and age, there's a lot of discussion being, had nowadays about, decolonizing the space.
True.
And I, known you for years. I consider you as a true ally, to the melanated people and to the plight of those who've struggled with brown skin on the earth. My question would be, like, how do you navigate this conversation and this, how do you show up in this space with that, presenting as a white man and this, carrying this tradition? What is it like for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting topic, and something I guess I would say I'm always somewhat aware of, though at the same point I try not to be overthink it, because at a certain point, what I found is, for the most part, if I just show up wherever I show up, looking how I look, looking however these people look, even if I'm sort of the white sheep in the room, so to speak, and I have found myself in that position quite a lot in my life, where I've been the only white guy. I mean, at a certain point, I'm aware of it, but I also don't overthink it. And I just find, by just being real, being a person, like, I connect with people, I think it certainly helps, especially in South America, that I can speak pretty good Spanish. So, once people can realize that I can actually communicate with them effectively.
Right.
That helps break a lot of barriers. The music, I will say, also breaks down a lot of barriers.
Yeah.
People can say, like, who's this guy? Why is he showing up here? But then maybe they'll hear me sing. Be like, oh, that's actually, can't complain too much. Sings pretty good. So, and that's happened, I think, in a lot of places. But I never take anything for granted. I would never assume anything. And it's an interesting topic that we've been having, with some of our own class groups too, of our teachings that we do with our own courses and people in our community. It's come up quite a bit because it's a really delicate subject, and it's so easy to show up, as the entitled person, and it doesn't matter what color you are. You can show up with that energy regardless of who you are, where you come from. Just assuming that this because you're from a certain place or something. You'll find, a lot of us are, in reality, even people of color, are quite disconnected from their own culture too. So just to assume that because someone is indigenous that they know all about their own ceremonies is not always true.
It's almost the type of tokenism,
Yeah.
naivete there.
Right.
I'm curious, has there been any accusations? Like, have you been confronted, like, oh, you're a colonizer, colonizing this space, and you have a Colombian wife, and you're making money, like...
I really haven't directly experienced that. And if someone comes with critique, I think at the end of the day with a conversation, they get the feel of like who I am and how I've lived, how we've lived.
Yeah.
The experience that we have is real. It's legitimate, and it goes back decades to the point where I can, not that I feel like I need to prove anything at this point either, but it's again, like I said, it's something that I'm always like subtly aware of, but I try not to overthink because you can definitely get lost in that rabbit hole. Like, who am I and why should I be here doing this? The other thing I will say is if I show up to like I said, I never assume anything. If I was to show up to a ceremony, I don't know if people know who I am or not. I'm not necessarily expecting I'm going to show up and like take over. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people will come to our place and they'll be like, oh, I sing in ceremony, and they're just expecting like we're going to give them like hand it over. We don't always do that either. We run things a certain way. We keep things very organized and specific. And I expect the same if I go to someone else's ceremony. I'm not necessarily showing up. If they ask me, of course, I'm happy to sing. But I'm never expected. I never need it. And I'm happy to kind of relax and have a night for myself too, sometimes to be off duty. So.
Lovely share. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
And how has it been for you in this space with, having a white representing male who is a beautiful, powerful ally, strong in his gifts and sharing, and breaking the boundaries, going beyond? Have you had to face any type of complications along the way in relationships or accusations or insults?
I think it always in this spiritual path, there is going to be 90% of people that love what we are doing, the ceremony in any context, with the medicine, without the medicine, a temazcal, even, like a moon dance or any other ceremony. They are going to be 90% happy, 10% are going to hate us, and they are going to find ways to just shred us to pieces in any way they can, including saying that he's white or that I am a woman that, just speak my truth and how dare you, and, just all of these things. So it's like you just have to be coherent, I guess. That's the word, and be impeccable in your life. I think the most important example that people can see is how we live, how we raise our children, and how we have overcome all of the difficulties in our life, like even the fire that we had, just all of those things are like challenges that come into our lives. And even with the fire, people were thinking, oh, the fire happened to them because they need to lose everything, because that's what they are doing, and God took everything from them. And we saw it from the other perspective, like it was a big cleanse. We got to see the truth in a lot of people that we thought they were with us, and at the end they were really attacking us when we were in the lowest point of our lives, like just really in a very delicate state, because it was COVID, Abuela Malinali was dying, and we lost everything that we had, And in that moment, we just kept smiling and we kept moving forward, and people were even mad because we were like so positive about our future. And then sure enough, we got our home. All the prayers came true, because in that other home we wouldn't be able to have the moon dance ceremony because it was in the trees, and we wouldn't be able to have a circle event. But like in this new house, it's like the perfect place for us to have our moon dance. Amazing. And the temazcales, and it has all the water from Mount Shasta, from the mountain, and so many prayers came through from all of that. And also we got a place in Colombia near Medellin that has like all the water that we want, with waterfalls that we are still looking to see what's gonna happen with that land. But all of that came from that fire, and it was just the confirmation that we were doing something really good, and that the spirits were reshaping everything that we needed to reshape to be able to have these ceremonies, and that they were giving us this gift of cleansing also all of our community and just moving forward into what was our next cycle as a couple too. Like just trusting each other, leaning into each other, making our relationship even stronger. Our children have to move from wherever they were and just get to have other friends, and now that's how we landed in Oregon too. And how our daughter has the best friends now, university. It's just how everything changed.
It was an upgrade, actually.
Yeah. That's the irony of it. It was an upgrade.
Yeah, so it's like, that is, like, for people that are like, just, like, why are they doing that, or why Shimshai is doing that, and like, it's just like, okay, we don't need to really say much more than that. It's just like, just look at what our life is, and how the prayers have been answered, and like how all of these ceremonies really work, and that is the testament, like, okay, this is, we don't need to really, explain more.
I think we made peace a while ago with the fact that we're not going to please everyone. But the people who do resonate with what we do are going to go really deep with what we do. They're going to get a lot out of it. And the people who don't, there's plenty of other places for them to go. At the end of the day, that's it. That's all we can do.
Yes. Well, that's beautiful. What a lovely conversation. I appreciate you guys being here and sharing and showing up for this. Yeah. And I hope that we can circle back again at some point, cover some topics and go deeper in different areas that we didn't explore this time. But I think this is a good launch pad for now. And we'll take this moment to just go ahead and share your links and, where people can contact you and just be, on the pulse of what you guys are doing, what you're offering, and maybe they can, join in.
Yeah,
feel free.
Yeah, so our main website is just shimshaisusana.com. And from there, it opens up to a whole world. We have a retail shop, including, medicines that Susana largely makes, creams and sprays and ceremonial cleansing medicines, a whole series of events, medicinal or non, coming up through the spring and again in the fall. Music, you can find our music.
Yes.
And you can see a little bit more about the center where we conduct our work too, at the base of Mount Shasta in California.
Nice. We have a curanderismo school too for all of the people that want to learn more on how to walk this path. And the school is 9 months and includes all of the ceremonies in those 9 months. And then we teach them everything that what we learn throughout all of these 50 years together of experience of doing this work. So so I think that's the main. We have other classes. We have a song class, we have Tonalama class, and we have the Cuatro Altares class that we also teach from our teacher Alonso del Rio, who's an amazing teacher for us too.
Nice. Well, thank you so much.
So much more. We need another episode.
Yes, definitely. We will. We'll make that happen again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. Please follow up on all the links that I'll be leaving below. Again, like and share and, give us a follow. Stay tuned. We're going to be bringing on a lot of amazing guests this season and, traveling around as well and just bringing other voices and other just strong medicine presences that are in this space that are really doing really good work for humanity in this way. And it's a good way. So thank you again. I'm your host, Yochanan Al-Khemetic. And stay tuned. Blessings.
Okay, so this song is from the Moon Dance ceremony, and it was given to us by Abuela Malinali. And it's a song about what are you gonna live when you die. And it's in English, in Nahuatl, and Spanish.
Ikakeneyaski Amitlaniteño Titlio Tlacuiclalpan Tlalipan Kinikis Rishino Yolosi Hashemoto Palishiwala Nemili Cuepolis Tlalipan Tines Cayo Totil Sochime Tine tines kayo to tiu kui kame. Memorias del pasado que dejaré cuando me vaya. ¿Es acaso que en vano venimos a vivir sobre la tierra? Dejemos al menos flores, dejemos al menos cantos. ¿No es acaso que a eso venimos a vivir sobre la tierra? Memories of the past that I will leave when I go. Did we come in vain to live upon this earth? Let's leave at least some flowers. Let's leave at least some songs. Isn't that why we came? To live upon the earth. Ikakemeyasti Amitlanitenyo titlio Tlacuitlalpan Tlalipan Kinikishwishino yolotzi Hashemotopali Shiwala Nemili cuerponis tlalipan Tineskayo totiu Xochime Tineskayo totiu Cuicame. Memorias del pasado que dejaré cuando me vaya. ¿Es acaso que en vano venimos a vivir sobre la tierra? Dejemos al menos flores, dejemos al menos cantos. ¿No es acaso que a eso venimos a vivir sobre la tierra? Memories of the past that I will leave when I go. Did we come in vain to live upon this earth? Let's leave at least some flowers. Let's leave at least some songs. Isn't that why we came? To live upon the earth. Ikakemeyasti Amitlanitenyo titlio Tlacuitlalpan Tlalipan Kinikishwishino yolotzi Hashemotopali Shiwala Nemili cuerponis tlalipan Tineskayo totiu Xochime Tineskayo totiu Cuicame.